Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. And for today's adventure, you may be wondering why I've got my coat on in the sunshine, but it's because today we've got extreme rainstorms and potential of thunder and lightning. But yeah, today I was basically going on the road here between Kirriemuir and Glenisla, and I've got a wee adventure I was thinking of going on up Glenisla when I noticed this road here on the right that I've never been up before, and I think it punches onto a piece of land that we've never been on the channel. So I thought, why not just pull the car in, have a wee adventure and punch up this track a bit, document any history that we've never seen before, folks. You know how it is on the channel. And yeah, the landscape here is just breathtaking. We've got loads of, I think they're called lupins and stuff like that growing. Over at this other side it's like Montreathmont Loch, which is a magic location in Scotland. Anyway, let's get into action folks and see where we end up with these spontaneous adventures. We never know what we're going to see, and this track kind of goes into a piece of land or an area that I've never been. That's why I'm so curious to see what's here. So now I've come up that first hill there, the view has really opened up and I can see over this incredible landscape. So from this location on the hill here behind Montreathmont Loch, look, you can see how low the water is. Normally that whole green section beyond the trees is actually water, and just now Montreathmont Loch and Backwater Dam further up are really low. Check it out folks, location number 2 on this video, and it's actually the path here. We're at the top of Glenisla where Forter Castle and stuff's over there. This is Mount Blair up here, and I've pulled the car in at the foot of this footpath here basically, and I just noticed it's been getting redone, or maybe the road had washed out, but there's actually a JCB and stuff sticking up. It actually says Glen Prosen Cormuir 10 miles, and I'm sure this is actually one of the Catherine Trails, which is like a walking path. I was just clicking the lock button on the car there folks, making sure it's locked. But yeah, I think this is actually one of the Catherine Trails, and on the sign it says the Scottish Rights of Way Society. And I was actually up at the Auchentaple Loch one time recently, or no, even recently, probably like 2 years ago now, on a video. But today I was thinking there's meant to be another path on the left, so I was just going to punch up this track and see if there is another path and see if there's any history kind of hidden in the wild lands. Look at this unit sitting here. It's a 140X LC digger, and it's a tidy bit of kit. I love to see a bit of machinery. You know how it is on the channel folks, we love history and machinery and stuff from all eras, all the way from the vintage diggers all the way to the modern things right there. And the rain has actually come on, and that's why I've got the coat on. I just need to avoid all the thunder and lightning. That's the main thing on today's adventure. The view looking up here to the wild lands is just incredible. Up into the hills and the glens that I actually explored recently when I went to a 1700s cottage. It's hidden way up in the middle of all those hills. That's why it's cool week on week, going different tracks and different roads and exploring things hidden within each of them. And because this has been freshly done, it's actually a pleasure to walk up here, apart from the rain. So now we've come a little bit higher here on the hill folks. Not only can we see the rainstorm moving through from like the Glen Shea Road and stuff's around that way, but look, you can now see Forter Castle, which was an ancient abandoned castle for a long time, and then it was taken over and restored, renovated, and now it's kind of back to its former glory, which is something that you see with some Scottish castles. A lot of the ones we visit are fully abandoned and derelict, but at one time that was also like that. And it is cool to see these Scottish castles getting brought back to life. Wow, this view looking up here, once I punch a wee bit further up, this is just going to be incredible. Look at it folks, look at this beautiful land leading up to the far glens and hills. The sun shining on the far hills and patches. Little single track lanes leading through this land for a road. And look how the rainstorm's really moving in behind me. Hopefully moving past, but one of the darkest clouds is kind of at this side. I'm going to go a little bit further, but I'm not wanting to get super soaked. We'll see how this ends up. You know how it is folks, we always end up in the middle of some kind of storm or some madness on these adventures. It's so cool on this channel that I can share views like this with people all over the world. It's the most beautiful Scottish landscapes, and often you just get a moment in the weather where the rain's in the foreground, the sun shines in the background, and it changes within a second. I do apologise for raindrops on the lens as well in this video, folks. The rain's kind of just moving through. It looks like there's a big patch of sunshine maybe coming up that way as well. The conditions today are just mad. It's actually quite mild, even though it is rainy. 16 degrees Celsius for this one, and they've made a really good job of this track. Look at this, folks. It's Forter Castle like never before. The silhouette of Forter Castle in front of the sunshine in the valley. It's almost magical. So sometimes in Scotland, to bring you the coolest places, this is the kind of thing we need to deal with. Often it's just spontaneous rainstorms. You don't know what weather you're going to get. In a few minutes it's probably going to be sunshine as well. Too hot to handle. And you can see how the valley behind me is actually clearing. Wow, what a scene out here, folks. Glenisla is one of my favourite glens. And look, the purple heather here is flowering on the hill behind me. So look here, folks, there's the Auchentaple path going up to the loch at that side. That's the path I've been on before when I've explored the loch. But today I'm going to have a wee look up this track here, because I'm always keen to explore places I've never been, and I think the Catherine Trail does actually lead up this way. Look, here's one of the old signs. I'm not sure how overgrown it is. That's what we're basically finding out. I'll head up and see how it is. I just always try and just keep one eye open basically for the history as we go. Look at the land now behind me. It's clear and the sunshine here has moved in over the land, folks. Wow, it's like 2 different days. The landscape can change so much between like a rainstorm or the sunshine. And I can see little tracks leading up onto the hills at each side in every valley. And there's always so much history in each little area to be found. That's what we're all about, even on today's video here. Often these wee roads were some of the old main roads back in the day. And this is how a lot of Scottish roads would have looked. Weaving their way through, horse and cart rolling down through the land. And then at a certain time some of them just got the tar and stuff put on, and they were made the modern main roads that we go on with our cars. But at an ancient time a lot more roads would have been used. And wow, this is just such a cool scene. Like this point from there to here, I've never been on this bit of path, and that's when I get so like excited, because you just don't know what's round the corner. And over the years we've found the coolest things from just continuing on down paths we've never been. And this is at a high bit of the glen here, so there could be anything up in these hills. Look at these misty mountains in the far distance, folks. You really get an aspect of the distance when you see the clouds and stuff in front of them. And there's crazy rainstorms moving in all directions. I'm not even sure if that's going to hit us on this track. I'm just punching on. I'm now out of the tree line there. I'm just going to go over here, see around the corner, and just document any history that's hidden on this path. And then who even knows what we're going to get into, folks. It is just so cool. When I saw that scene, I had to switch the camera back on, because that's like a painting you could have on your house wall. The scene of Scotland like never before. And look at this with the purple heather in the foreground. And that landscape and backdrop behind. There's like some ancient ruins on the far side of the glen as well. I can see stony outlines. And a lot of the time they were ancient crofts, most of the time in the 1700s and before it. Nowadays there's often just scars and remains of the walls. And that would even be a cool thing to find here today at this side of the glen. But it's so many hundreds of years ago, often it's just such a faint remain of the history. Check it out, folks, this is the sign here for the Catherine Trail, and I'm just going to have a look round the corner. The skies is actually looking pretty scary again all around, and there's rain moving in, so I'm just going to nip up here quickly and take a look basically to get this done before I get caught out in the weather. In Scotland the weather can be ferocious and can change so fast, and in the summer when it's like this it's just mad and unpredictable. Proper humidity. So check it out folks, I'm now out on the wild hill and my track is becoming more like a grassy path rather than the original path we had at the bottom of the hill. I can see there's actually a track going that way, but the sign for the Catering Trail here is going round to the right out of this glen. I'm just keeping an eye on this scary storm here behind me. I'm not really wanting to push on too far and make a mistake here. If it was just a perfect beautiful day I would go on further, but maybe today it's more sensible to go back and go somewhere else, kind of after all the storms and stuff's through. You know how my videos are folks, they're just a mixture of madnesses, and this is one of them. The kind of place I end up, there's actually nothing up on the hill. If there's lightning strikes or something, I'm the highest thing kicking about, and you hate to think about that when you're out. Yeah, look, I've got a cool view now over here. That's why I wanted to come to this point in the track to see ahead a long way, and I can see old wall lines. I think if I punch on up that way far enough I actually get to like a wee cottage or a bothy. I should have had the mountain bike for sure, but today I just thought like, oh, I'll go up on foot because I knew it was mostly uphill to come up this whole first section. It would have been easier probably to push the bike up, but on the way back down it would have been so much faster and cooler. Yeah, I can see a dry stone dike line leading down here. That's why I'm continuing to walk at this point. I'm wanting to see further down this hill. We're having a wee look around this corner folks. We're kind of at the opposite side of the hill from the main Glenisla area that I was in. And this is super cool. It is amazing going to areas you've never been. It's always such a fun adventure. And I think at one time this has been like, I can see little fence posts and gate posts. So I think that is obviously the original gate posts that was put in for the Catering Trail here. Yeah, look at the colour of that sky right there folks, it's scary. I was just wanting to see down into this valley. Look, there's wee streams and stuff leading its way down through, and the water's pure crystal clear. Fresh Scottish water. Check it out folks, this is a scene that we've never seen before on the channel. Look, there's Auchentaple Loch, and I'm parked like down the other side of that, so that gives you an idea of where I've walked. And that's why I was saying I didn't want to go too much further and get into like a predicament here. But yeah, that's amazing to see it. We are so high on the hill at the other side of the loch. That's what I was saying about the old fence posts or gate posts of the Catering Trail. You can see them there. And this is meant to be it, I think, leading up this hill, and I think it would just keep on going like miles and miles. But when I saw this I thought I need to come on and document it. There's a dry stone dike leading its way right over, and I believe if I continue on in the future up this road maybe I'll have to bring the mountain bike. And I think there's like a wee cottage or a bothy that we need to visit. This is a scene though of Scotland and Glenisla that I've never seen before, and I just love it. There's a little boathouse kind of bit there as well, which is super cool. Maybe before we leave the location of Glenisla I'll walk along that bit of the track as well. I'll see how much energy I've got when I get back round there. That gives you an idea of how far we've come from the opposite side. Glenisla's kind of down the other side of those fir trees, but the path's like a big horseshoe shape coming up the hill. And I would just absolutely love to go up there, but it's just such a wild day with the weather, and because there's meant to be thunder and lightning coming as well, I'm not taking that extra risk. If there was no word of that in the forecast I'd be more willing to go for it, but I didn't want to get caught so far away and get soaked. So yeah, let's see what we get into. It is crazy folks on these adventures, turning left and right into these lands, and sometimes you do have to make a crucial decision like that for the best adventure, or to stay safe in an adventure. I can hear a plane. The rain's actually coming on folks right this second. When I heard the rumble there of the plane I thought for a second it was thunder. It's crazy because I was away to switch the camera off and then all this is just occurring. You can see how quick the weather's started to change. And, yeah, so I'm just it's so humid as well. Look, there's wee moths and stuff. Now I've come back round this side of the hill, it's actually super windy, and it wasn't that windy earlier when I came up here, and that shows as well how the weather's changed. Sometimes at a different height on the hill as well, you get different weather conditions with like the strength of the wind or even the direction of the wind. Sometimes in Scotland you can see clouds go in different directions at different heights. So to all the viewers from all over the world, get in the comments and tell me like the areas you explore. I do like a variation of different landscapes, but different people live in different areas of the world, so it's interesting to see if like people go for adventures in like the desert or forests or the countryside, or some people even go on adventures in the cities. So yeah, get in the comments and say what country you're from and what you get into for areas to explore and stuff in your area. It's always cool to hear about stuff like that from my viewers all over the world. It's so cool to hear that connection, to be able to share my little corner of Scotland. So here we are, we've come all the way around the other side of the hill and we're back to the other side of Auchentaple Loch. It's cool because we saw this from the top of the maddest hill up there, and then now we're back down at the shores. It's quite a big loch, and it's actually a man-made loch. I could see people out here fishing, sitting on the fishing boat, and we'll head down and take a wee look. Hey, look at the boathouse. Obviously we always come with respect to like the landowners and the boathouse owners and stuff. We'll just take a look for a distance because it's like a postcard scene up here in these lands. So when I was little, I actually used to stay in Glenisla down in the glen at the far side of these hills, and that's why nowadays I love coming into these areas to explore. It's got that cool part to it. That's the landscape. I used to look out my window and see these sorts of hills, but back then I was too little to go out and actually explore areas like this. Just look at it nowadays, folks. It's cool with adventures. It's crazy, there's just so much hidden in places like this, and to see Auchentaple Loch today. So check it out, folks, that's actually the hill over there that we walked up. I was probably over halfway up that heather section of the hill at the far side looking down on this, and yeah, I can hardly even see the boathouse yet. I was hoping I'd be able to see it from a distance. In previous adventures years ago, I actually walked right, whoa, a beast total flew into my face there, folks. But yeah, years ago I actually walked right around here and went on to other lands and other pieces of history, because there's paths that lead right the way through the landscape here of Glenisla, and you can actually walk all the way back around to like Loch Chandra and other cool areas like that. I think most recently I actually went down there looking for frogs on one of my videos. So look at this, folks, the character of this little building here on the land is something special. That's why it's worth throwing the camera on. I think I'm only going to walk down to here so I can document it. I love the way the steps and stuff go out, like up the outside of the building. It's almost like the wee boathouse we visit in the other glen, but the other one's completely abandoned, whereas this one's still used and looked after. It's just a little paradise scene overlooking Auchentaple Loch. Yeah, look at that, folks, it is just magic. And from the top of the hill at the far side I could see this place with a little balcony. It would be an amazing place on like a summer's evening to sit there and have a barbecue. Probably the fishermen do that and sit and throw their rods in. They maybe barbecue the fish that they've caught out on the loch. And from certain areas it looks like a massive loch, so I think it curves around the back of this outcrop of land. Because when I'm close to it, it looks like a small loch, and the far end there is actually the dam wall, which would have been constructed to raise the height of the water, so it's at this height here. But yeah, from here it looks quite small when you see the outer perimeter, but from the top of the hill it's actually far bigger. And it looks like there's actually a river, or a wee stream I should say, flowing under my feet here where that little bridge goes over. Yeah, what a cool wee nugget that is, folks. I love it, the scene of that. And that's why I came around here before I go back to the car. I'm not even sure where I'm going to go next on this video, but that's what it's like. It's spontaneous adventure, one after the other. And wow, what a scene. It must have a little fireplace in there, maybe a little log burning stove. You can imagine sitting in there, maybe having a dram or whatever after a hard day's fishing. You could spend a weekend in a place like that if you owned it. It would be a cool little getaway. Look at this, there's little forest tracks and stuff leading over the land. Yeah, often it's just mad. Year on year I go a little bit further down each track and explore different bits of land. Like I say, I've been around that side before at abandoned crofts and farms, and that's why today I wanted to go around that other far side. But because of the unpredictable weather conditions, I had to turn around because I didn't want to get stranded away out there on the hill. So the cool thing, when you come down from Auchentaple, you think, wow, what an incredible view. And then 2 seconds later, you turn the corner and you realise there's an even better view just even further up that direction. It is just mad in Scotland how there's just vast, beautiful landscapes like that for miles, every direction in an area like this. And Glenisla is one of my favourite places to explore. I just love the landscape and the nature, the scenery. And each of these Angus glens and little Scottish glens, even in Perthshire and other areas like that, they've all got their own unique character. And you would almost think you were in a different country because the landscape can be so different. Just when I switched off the camera, folks, a rat has just crossed over the road in front of me and ran through that pipe or up the side of that pipe. That is crazy. That's what I say to you. There's just so much beasts and animals around. And it just shows you within this area, literally right there somewhere, there's a rat. But this year I've seen quite a lot of rats and stuff out in the wild, and that's the kind of drainage areas they hang out in. So check it out, folks. Our adventure has now taken us to lowland Angus, and I'm actually halfway between kind of like Brechin and Arbroath, and then there's like Forfar and Montrose, and I'm quite near the crossroads on all those roads. But today I've come to a piece of the forest that I've never explored before on a video. It is saying forestry work, but yeah, this is one of the tracks at the Arbroath side of Montreathmont that I've never been on. So as part of this wee video, I thought I'll punch on down here and see if there's anything cool, document it for the world to see. And it's cool to hear that range of things with the wild hill and the last few clips up at Auchentaple Loch, all the way down to the lower lands of Angus. And Montreathmont Forest is actually one of the biggest forests in Angus, and it's so cool that there's loads of paths that you can kind of walk down and explore. Over the years I have actually found history in here, and that's why it's worth going down here for a look. Yeah, let's see what we get into, folks. Here's the first find of the walk, folks, down this woodland track. Look, we've got a Ford Transit van wheel, maybe from some of the folk that was here taking the timber out. I think there would have been a lot of timber stacked up here. Wow, some areas of the forest is like so thick you can hardly even see through it. And then it looks like this track continues on pretty far, so that's decent. Mission update, folks. I started jogging there because a wasp started flying around me. But yeah, I've been walking about 20 minutes. Like, you can see my shadow because the sun's low in the sky. And look, the track at one time I think has turned to the right. I've been walking for about 20 minutes down the track that you saw in the last clip. And yeah, look at this now. It cuts to the left. So I'm going to continue on following it. Yeah, I got such a fright because there was a wasp just like flying around me. Wow, yeah, the rain was kind of just on at one little particular corner of the forest there. I don't even know what I'm going to see around each corner. I love a forest walk, folks. It's one of my favourite places to walk. Look at this. The thistle growing right there. That's what we love to see on my adventures. I'm obviously not trying to go into the overgrown terrain tonight. I'm trying to avoid any ticks or beasts hidden within the land. I actually had AKR on the phone yesterday. Shout out AKR. He was saying that he discovered a tick in his garden, so it just shows you, even nowadays, you get them in your garden as well as out in the wilds. Yeah, look at this, folks. The track leads on down here. I'll update you once we see the next cool thing. That's mad. I was basically walking in pretty much a straight line the whole way into the forest, and this was the first left hand turn, but that was the only bit of the forest the sun was kind of shining in. When I get to a section like this in the road, this is the fun time because I don't know what direction it actually goes. It looks like the track would have continued on at one time that way, and I came from away around that corner at the far end. I think that way would actually take me back to the main road direction, but that would be like the next road out of the forest. Yeah, wow, look, that one's more overgrown than the one I've just walked. What a scene, folks. All these directions, look, they're just fully overgrown. That's sometimes what happens on these adventures. I'll maybe go down here a little bit and just see what's up. Getting how it is, folks. We just keep the adventures going, turning left and right, just seeing how it is. I'm not sure how overgrown this path will become if I just go further down, but it looks far less overgrown than this wilderness behind me. It's always the same, folks. Just as I turn the camera off, I see the next interesting thing here in the land. And look, this time it's a wild animal. Look at its nose. It's one of those little mice. It lives in the grass, and I think it can hardly see. It uses its nose to smell quite a lot. And that's literally like the size of my thumb. Look at that. And those things kick about. That ain's obviously dead, but I have seen them living, and they often live in forests and the grassy environments. I think they can actually climb up the grass as well. But yeah, interesting, folks. And then look, there's a bee. There's been a lot of wasps and bees. Some of the wasps, I absolutely hate it when they come fleeing around me. But the bees, I don't mind them so much because they just go on their way. And yeah, I'm going to go a wee bit further down here, but it looks like it's more and more overgrown the further down I come. Check it out, folks. These paths are infinite right here. And this is actually like another little T-junction with an old track. It's too overgrown to go down at this time of year, but there's like another track going down that way. And I think there's been something square here in the ground at a certain time. Maybe when they've been doing timber operations or whatever, they've maybe had a wee cabin here. But yeah, what a scene. It's actually really humid tonight, and it's actually about 8:30 PM. That's why I'm not wanting to go too far into the middle of this forest. But I love exploring on these tracks that I've never been on before. And it's so cool. Often the wee nuggets you find along the way, or the wee things, the wee wildlife, like the wee animals and stuff. I'm saying the wee wildlife. It's because I was just about stepping on a bee. Sometimes when you're vlogging in Scotland, you have to keep one eye to the ground so you don't stand on an animal. But yeah, the wildlife around Scotland's so interesting. Once you often take a closer look, there's just so much going on. And even down here, look at those little plants. Also in Scotland, you get quite a lot of ants. So I see ants running about quite a lot at my feet when I'm walking through the forests. So the difference in Scotland from the summer to the winter is just incredible. It's like living in two different countries. Even the nature and wildlife, there's so many beasties and creatures fleeing about and landing. You just think, like, where are all they in the winter? They must be down in the ground or in some of the plant leaves. Because in the summer there's just so much everywhere. And then even all the plants as well. There's just stuff growing up every chance it gets. That's why it was so cool tonight to find that track with the stones on it. Because even this track here, it's getting to a stage it's like so overgrown. But maybe in the winter months I'll have to punch on further up all these other tracks once it's not overgrown. And that's what I love. I always keep finding new things that I need to explore. Even earlier in the video today, when I was actually up at Auchentaple, I saw the remains of another little cottage kind of wall down near the river. So in the future I want to go on down there and have a wee look at that. And that's the sort of thing today, even coming in here, it's more of an idea, different paths and little routes I can go. And these tracks would actually be perfect for the mountain bike. So I've got this app called Seek on my phone, and it actually is meant to be able to identify any plant or animal. So let's try it on this mouse here that's on the path. Long-tailed shrew is the genus. I don't know how well it comes out without with the reflection right there, folks. Look, long-tailed shrews. The last time I tried this was the newts. Oh look, it's a common shrew, that's the species. So there we go, folks. On today's video we've literally documented the common shrew perished here on the path. And that's the kind of thing that I love to bring you on the channel, the detail of the animals as well as the landscape and the history. And that's why sometimes my videos is just called like Adventures of a Scottish Explorer, because I'm just out here exploring left, right and centre, from the highest hills to the wildest of forests. I just love going down all these tracks and just having a look around, and it's cool that I can throw the camera on along the way. Sometimes you need to wait until they do forestry in these lands before you can actually get down the paths. Whenever they decide to take these bits of forest out or the trees out of these areas, they actually normally redo the road, like you can see here. And yeah, I'm basically heading all the way back. It's probably like a half-hour walk I've come all the way in this track. But it's just amazing, you can just hear all the animals. The trees is actually keeping the wind off me. And look at this, right at the start of the video, we actually stopped the car up behind Montreathmont Reservoir on the hill. And look, we saw the lupins. And it just shows you down here on the lowlands of Angus, you also get the lupins growing. And they're throughout this whole forest landscape, along with the ferns. You get them all over the place as well in Scotland. It just adds to the whole scene. And also, in the forests, I love seeing the moss. So many different colours. So check it out here, folks. A massive area of this forest has been cut down and taken out, and that'll be why this road was probably put in. But basically, I can't even remember if I videoed this on the way in when I was walking past. I pretty much just walked straight in, only recorded a couple of clips. But yeah, look at this. The little waterways lead through the land, and this has been clear felled as far as the eye can see. And my car's actually parked way down, probably twice the distance or more than what we can see, folks. A lot of this stuff used to get burnt after they had clear felled a forest. They used to pile this stuff up. It was called hag, that was the Scottish word for it. And they would basically pile it up and burn it. But nowadays it looks like they maybe cart it away with lorries or whatever, because it's all been piled up here at the trackside. So I'm not sure about that. You don't really see the piles of hag sitting burning anymore like the old days. Like, it's probably something to do with the smoke. Yeah, there is a wee bit of timber here, but probably not enough to have a whole lorry coming in to collect it, and it's just been left. This is what I love about Scotland, the peace and tranquility, and the variation as well of landscapes. And also the variation of wildlife from the lower lands of Angus to the highest glens. It's been a fun adventure today, and it's been something different. We've basically just thrown the camera on and had an adventure from the far back glens there of Glenisla all the way down here to an area of Montreathmont that I've never been in. And it wasn't until like I was actually recording the last video that you may have seen on the channel when I went to Arborough, and I drove past here and thought, oh, there's a cool road there that I've never been, and that's why I've come back today. So yeah, it's just mad off, and one adventure on my channel often leads to another. And in the future, maybe in the winter or whatever, I'll punch on further up some of these little tracks when it's not so overgrown. And it's interesting to see how far these paths also go. Anyway, folks, what better place to end the video? I'm ending it here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you very soon for the next adventure, wherever I end up going into the wildlands of Scotland.